Hello guys, and now we will be starting our stream soon. So I will tell you to stay tuned for some time. Hello guys, and welcome to my stream. And now what we are going to do is basically install React.js, and I will tell you what React.js is all about. So what we will do is now I will open a new Chrome tab. Just give me a second. So I will bring google.com over here. So one second. So we are going to install React.js, and I will tell you how to install it exactly. So we'll wait for google.com to load. It's still loading. Okay guys, so first thing we have to do is install Node.js. So to install Node.js, we have to actually go to nodejs.com. So after installing Node.js, you have to run some commands. So you can just go to your Google search engine and you can type, it's not responding. Um, so we will close this page, and so you have to install something called Node.js. So I have my command prompt open here, and so in my command prompt, basically you have to install something called Node.js. So I'll just zoom in a bit. Okay, so you have to install something called as Node.js. You can just go to Google and type Node.js install, and it's just a basic setup. You have to just click the latest version, select your operating system, and go ahead and install it. After installing, you have to give your system a good restart. And after you restarted your system, you have to start by running this command called as node package manager or npm. So what this npm is basically, um, it is the node package manager. Basically, it gets all the external packages. So you can see that you have all the uh, commands. Basically it will come like this, so it means that your node.js is installed. Next, what you have to do is, uh, you have your directory here. So what you have to do is, you have opened your command prompt. Now what you have to do is open your file folder, and after you have opened your file folder, you have to go to the desired folder. So example, you want to go to C colon, or you want to go to documents, and you want to create your project here. So what you have to do is you have to click over here, and you can see that we get some things. So what you have to do is, just copy that. If you copy that, um, okay, the example, I'm creating going into some folder called Zoom, in documents. You can see that I get something called C colon slash things. So you have to copy that basically and go back to your command prompt, and you have to type CD and you have to paste that in. So if your folder is in another drive, let's say F colon, so you have to type F colon and then type that command basically, then it will go to that directory. So it means that you're in some kind of folder. So I've already created a project, so I'll tell you how to create it. So if you want to navigate to individual folders, you can do it like this by just doing cd. Cd means change directory. And so I have my Golden drive, my hard drive, and inside that I have a Harish projects folder. So I'm basically going into the folder. I'm going into the JS projects folder. I'm going into the React project. So I'm going into that folder, and here I have all my React projects inside. So I have to run this command called npx create React app and your app name. So app name can be anything, my app, whatever, you can type anything. After that, if you hit enter, it'll run a basic set of commands and your app will be ready to go. And the last, it will say you to do some things like you have to go to cd my app, and then you have to run npm start, or if you're using a yarn, which is a different package manager in Node.js, you can just type yarn start. So that will basically start the React.js, and your thing should look something like this. And when React.js is compiled, it will return you uh, a browser window showing something like this, and this thing will be actually spinning over here. So I'll close my command prompt and see that the thing will be spinning. I have set my graphics settings to low due to some browser glitches, so it is not rotating, but the page will look something like this. So I have opened my text editor, that is the Sublime Text. So I'll close this, and Sublime Text is a good text editor, and you can do some basic text editing using Sublime Text. So you can see that I have a bunch of apps over here, bunch of files. You can see that, and first thing is you can see that the app.js file. So this is the file we'll be mostly working with, and this is a very important file. So, and you also have the app.test.js, you have the index.js. You can see this is a very, very important file, and you should not tamper with this file. Most of the time, you should be careful while using this file because it's basically your entry point towards your React.js. So I expect you to know some basic knowledge of React, normal JavaScript, so that you can learn React.js. So what basically is going in the index.js is that um, it is going to access some element called root. So root is basically a div. So if we go to the public folder here, this is basically a public files, the file which will go to your client. So in that you have the index.html. So this index.html will go to your client. And in that you can see that you have a div called root. So what React does is it takes your JavaScript code, it compiles it and puts everything into this root. Okay. So that's what the index.js is doing over here. Okay, then after that you have this app function. So what this app function is basically coming from our app.js. You can see that our app is getting exported, and when it comes here, you can see that we have our app.js over here. So inside this app.js basically is the code that you see here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split my browser window like this. Okay, so I have splitted my browser window, and you can see that this is the code for this is the HTML code for this one. You can see that I've imported some CSS in this. So if we expand this again, and you can see that we also have our CSS files. So even React.js supports a lot of CSS styling. So CSS is a very easy, and I expect you to know that. But you can refer some other tutorials if you want to learn. So basically, I'm going to remove everything. I'm going to save it, and I'm going to come here, and I'm going to remove everything inside this door, and I'm going to create a new h1 tag, and I'm going to tell it as hello world. You can see that everything has actually, you can see that we have the live reloading. So I'll change my preset to as JSX. So you can see this HTML code, and you are wondering how we are able to write HTML inside JavaScript. So React.js has something called as JSX. So that is full form of it is JavaScript extensible. So what it does is it's just like HTML, but it's inside JavaScript. You can see that I'm writing basic HTML. You can see that instead of class, I'm using class name. So that's the basic difference. So usually in HTML you have class, but I'm using class name over here. And there are some small differences between JSX and HTML, but it's almost same. And what you do is the function app here returns this JSX code. So what the React does is passes this JSX code and gives us this result. You can see that it's just like HTML, so I can create another div over here, uh, and I can create a new h1, and I can say like hello world to this is JSX. You can see that if I save that, it should be compiling over here and it should actually give us a live result. Usually it does that. So I think it is compiling. So after it compiles, it will show that you understand what JSS is. It's basically simple. It supports 99% of HTML tags, and it does not support some things like a script tag or you can't write inline JavaScript in this. So that is a small thing, but most of this it is basically um, HTML 99%. So what I will do is I will remove this and next we will go towards something called as components. So you are seeing the screen and everything in the screen is a component. So you can see this app. App is a tag over here. It means that app here is a component. So the rules for component is that it will always start with a capital letter. You can see that the function app always starts with a capital letter, that is the app. And when we export it, we can use it as a component. Components are basically parts of your screen. Let's say that you are making an app and you want a nav bar, you want a, let's say a carousel, you want a list. So they are all components of your app. So we are going to create a new component. So in this src folder, let's create a new file. Okay, and let's save it. Um, okay, I will save it in the same directory. You can see that it's the same directory, and I will save it as let's say component. So component always starts with capital. So component dot JS. So you can say component test here. Okay, so you say component test.js. So first thing you should do in the component is always import React from React here. Then after that, you have to create a new function and you have to give a name to this function, that is the component test. So I recommend you to keep the same name as you keep for the component for file here. See that I made a mistake, so I will rename this file here. Okay, so it's recommended to keep the same name so that you don't get confused anytime. And after that, you have to return something. So in this something is basically the JSX. So I'll create a new div here. And there's a basically one rule for JSX, that JSX should return one element. One element, like it should return only one div, and inside the div you can keep n number of elements. So example, if I keep two divs like this will not be accepted by React div. So if you want these two divs to appear, you have to enclose it in another div tag. And let's say you don't want to use a div, you can use this empty tagging like this, which doesn't mean anything over here. I'll just cut this and paste it here. So this is basically want to render two elements like two divs. You can use this empty tag. So that is a thing that JSX has. Okay, so I'll return one div over here, and inside this I will return a h1. We will call this as this is a component, something like this. And to use this component, you have to import it somewhere. Either you have to import it over here in the index.js, or else you can use it in the app.js. As I said before, that index.js is, you should not tamper with it. So we'll just leave it here and we'll just close this file and we'll work with app.js for now. Okay, so what I'll do is I will import component test from, okay, this is the function name that is being exported over here. And I forgot, we have to also do export default and the name of the component. Okay, and here you have to import component test from dot slash component test.js. What I'm doing is I'm importing this component test function from the file component.js. So basically dot slash means the current folder. So app.js is in the src folder. So dot slash means that in the src folder, you're going to access component.js. So once you get this, you can use it like another tag, just like another tag by saying component.js. You can see that, okay? Just like another tag. And you see that it should compile and it should show this is a component, means that it's working. At the same time, we will save this file over here so that there is no error. You can see that it's not exporting because we have not saved it yet. So it will again recompile. You can see that it should actually show us the compilation now. See that we are getting this is a component over here, which is a good sign that our app is working perfectly. Next, I'm going to say is something called as prop, which is a component thing in React.js. So what props is actually properties that you pass to a JSX element or a component. So here we have a class name called app. So this is a prop. Example, let's say ID equals test. So this is the prop. So ID becomes a prop. So how to make props is that we have to create a curly braces like this, okay? And you have to give the name of your different props. Let's say that they keep it as text here, some text. So we are expecting some text as a prop, okay? So let's keep one text and let's keep subtext, okay? This is the second thing. So what we'll do here is we'll keep a new prop, that is we are giving the text prop here. We have to keep the exact name text over here also. It means that we are accessing the prop text and we are giving it a value here. So here text, I'll keep it as this is a component, and for the subtext here we'll keep the subtext, and for the subtext we'll keep it as this is a subtext. So we go back here and you want to use these props, you want to use the values that came from text and subtext over here. How you'll use it that? You'll remove this basically and we'll use curly braces like this, and inside this we'll keep text. So what we'll which is doing is basically accessing the text variable over here. And I'll keep a UL over here, and, uh, and this will basically be our subtext. If I save this, this should reload now. Okay, so this is basically that. And if you want to, you can see that it's working. This is a component and this is a subtext. Can mean you're seeing that you're able to pass props very easily over here. Okay, you can see that props are passed just like another argument or attribute in HTML that we pass. So it's just same like that. Okay, so we have understood that. And next thing is basically use state and use effect hooks. So basically React hooks is a very important concept over here. So what I'll do is I'll remove this component for now like this. And what we will do is I'll remove this and I will import React from React like this. Okay, and we'll use something called use state. So basically when you are managing any variables in JavaScript, it is very difficult because we have to render it, we have to update everything every time, and we have to write separate code for that. But what React just does, it basically automates that process for us. So what we'll do is we'll create curly braces like this and import use state like this. Okay, and how to use state is we'll create a constant here, and we'll say that variable. So variable is basically our variable name, and we'll say set variable is equal to use state 0. So what I've done here is I have created a const, and what I'm doing is basically I'm destructuring what is coming from this use state function. So what is first thing is that we have a variable and we have a set variable. So set variable is a function. So if we pass any value to that, the value will be equated and it will be basically changed to the value of the variable. Okay, and this 0 is basically the initial value of um, the state. So 0 here, so this variable will be equal to 0. And keep variable like string something like hello. So this hello will become the variable. Okay, and we can access that in our JSX. So I'll keep it as hello over here, and here I'll create a new h2 tag, and I will keep this variable. Okay, just like how we used it in the props here, just like that. Okay, so it should compile and it should basically give us the variable. And see that we are getting this variable, and you must be thinking how to update this variable. You can update this variable whenever you want. Let's say when we click a button. So I'll create a new button here. Okay, and let's say it click. So basically I've created a button, and so this button, if we click, we can't do anything. We have not said anything to React JS to do. For that, we have to use a prop called onClick. So onClick will basically take a empty function like this. Okay. So what will it do means I will create a new function here. I'll create function and I'll call it button click. Okay. So what this function will does is basically set variable to from high, it'll from hello, it'll set it to high. Okay, that's it does. So what I can do is I can just pass this like this, button click over here like this, without the braces, curly braces like this. And what it'll do is whenever we click that click me button, it'll basically set the variable and it will update the variable to high. You can see that it's reloaded, and if I click this, see that it gets updated to high. So you can understand the influence of this use state, and it's really helpful for us. You can create something like a counter, like like plus or minus. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new we'll remove everything, we'll remove this variable. I'll create a new state here. Let's say const counter set counter equals use state, and we'll keep it as 0 for now. And we'll create a function and we'll call it as increment. So it can be any name. I'm just keeping increment because we're going to increment the value to 0 to 1 and so on. What I'll do is I'll do set counter plus 1. What I'm doing here is basically setting the value of counter to plus 1. So what I'm doing is I'm getting the value of counter, which is 0 initially, and I'm using the set counter function to increment it by 1. Okay. And in this button, I will keep a button called plus, and instead of that, I will do increment. I'll create another button here, so I'll just copy paste this, and we'll keep it as minus, and I'll copy this also, and keep it as decrement. So basically this will decrement and we'll set it as -1. So you can see that, and we have to keep this counter in the JSX so that we can show it in the browser, in the web app. I'll keep it as counter here. Okay. So I'll say um, counter, and I'll give it and I'll say counter. What I'm doing is basically some text. You can keep anything like this is a counter. So what this is do is we are accessing this counter again. Okay, so I'll keep it as counter here, something like this, and it should update soon. So you can see that what we have done is basically created a state, created two new button functions, and when this clicks, you can see that we have not set the correct function, so it should be decrement. Okay, so what will does is if we plus this press here, you can see that it will increment. Okay, and I think it is still compiling, and we'll wait for it to. Okay, you can see that decrement is going to 0. If you click on this, you can see that it's incrementing continuously. And if you click this, you can see that it is going down, it is getting decremented. You can understand that. So you can see that it's going towards the negative. And this will keep on going infinitely until the user collects. You can see that if I click it fast, it will keep on going. Okay. So that is how use state works. And the next important hook is like use state. We have something called as use effect. So what use effect is? So I will create use effect. Use effect. Okay. What use effect is? This hook accepts a function, and that function will be executed if its state changes. So let's say that the counter is changed and you want to do something, you want React just to do something. Use effect, if you put any function inside, it will do it when the particular state gets implemented or it gets changed. Okay. So how it works is we can use effect here, and you have to pass an empty function like this. Okay, so basically this and that arrow function in JavaScript, which is same as function. Okay, and you come down over here. So, and inside this will be basically writing a function code, whatever is inside, and then we'll give it a list over here, a array of states for which it should work on. Okay, so first we'll give it a counter. So whenever counter gets updated, this will run. Okay, so we'll do console.log counter dot updated. Okay. So basically say whenever counter gets updated, it will do a console.log. So what is console.log is if you go to inspect over here, you will find something called as a console there. So I think this is also getting compiled. The inspect is not working, but uh, okay, it's still compiling for us. I think we'll create a new, uh, I think it's trying to open the inspect. So I'll create a new tab over here. Okay, now it should be working for us. I think my Chrome is a little bit broken, so uh, okay guys, you can see that it has worked here. And what we'll do is it's not doing any console.logs, but this method will run whenever we are doing something, will get updated. Okay. So what we will do is we'll create a new text like this, and we'll create a new state over here and to show it because my inspect is not working. If they const say like text over here and set text equals use state, say like this, a normal text. And what we'll do is basically set text to this is let's say counter got updated. Okay, so we'll keep this over here like this text. Okay, so initially you won't see anything because the text is set to nothing here. You can see that just an empty string means it's just set to nothing over here. So when our counter gets updated, the text will also get updated because what happens is the use effect hook will what it will do is basically runs function whenever this something got, so you can see that counter got updated over here. Okay, so it's because this thing first time you can see that the counter is getting set over here, so that's why it's getting updated. Okay, and we'll just press continue like this. See that counter got updated. And if I reload this page, what will happen if I reload this page is all my state gets erased. So all your state is actually in the JavaScript, so it's not stored anywhere. So it's just there, and when you exit the app or when you reload the page, all your state will get erased. So I'll show you. So it was 3 before, and when I reload it, I can see that it will become, it actually becomes 0 actually back it was. You see that it's still on 0 and the counter got updated is here because the counter was initially set. So when the React does a rendering, so rendering actually means that the app when it's trying to compile everything, it will do it everything at once, and it first time when it does, it will also include this use effect, whatever is inside. That's why you're able to see this counter got updated set text over here, but basically it will get updated. This thing will run most of the second time or after that when this will get changed. Okay, next is API fetching. So we'll talk about API fetching. What I will do is I'll open a new tab and I'll go to JSON placeholder.typicode.com. You can see this thing over here, and I'll just copy this. So this is basically a uh, place where you can use get API. What API is actually a server which will give you data. if we go and visit this link, or if we send a request to this link. So we can send requests to links or servers to get data for us. So JSON holder type code is a dummy server for testing your skills, or just just practicing or something. So we are going to use this. And what I'll use use effect for that. So in use effect, we'll create a new asynchronous function. So I'll create a new asynchronous function. Okay, I'll um, call this function as, let's say, uh, get data. Okay, so what this function does, we basically say that const response is equal to await fetch fetch json folder dot typecode.com slash posts. Okay, so what I'm doing here is basically I'm creating a new variable called response res. I'm setting it to a fetch. So what this fetch function is that it actually sends a request, and we are saying this await, right? So basically this means that the thing will basically wait. The application will wait for it to get the data. So it actually gets data from this link. Okay, it's just a server link. Okay, and when it gets the data, we have the const data over here, which will await for rest.json. What I'm doing here is basically um, waiting for everything to be compiled into JSON format, which is JavaScript object notation. So it's something which JavaScript can understand very well. So we're converting that. And what we can do is we can use this data now anywhere in our application. It is the data which came there. So what I'll create a new state over here called data set, let's say server data, set server data is equals to use rate, a basic array. So you have to know what is coming from the data. If it is an object, a JSON object, you have to keep this. If it is array, you have to keep this. You have to know. I know that the JSON data which is coming is an array, so I'm keeping it as an empty array. Okay, then when this will happen, when it gets the data, we will set server data to the data. That's it. It's very simple. Then we will call this function so that it runs. Okay, so whenever a counter gets updated or something, this function will run. Okay, so I'll remove this for now. It means that it will update every time. This function will run every time if any state is updated. Okay, so we have set server data over here. And you see that it's working. You see that this all gone here. The text is all gone. Okay, and what I'll do is I'll remove this text. I'll keep the counter, and what we will do is we will use something called as a map method. I'll create its div. Okay. Inside this div, I'll use this curly braces over here to write inline JavaScript. You can write inline JavaScript using this curly braces. What I'm doing is I'm going to access this variable called server data dot map. So what dot map is, if you know JavaScript, I told that you need some basic knowledge. So map means basically it goes through every entry in the array. Okay, so it's a item over here, and we'll create a new function. You can see that, and we'll return. So this curly braces, normal braces means you're going to return a new div over here like this. Okay, and we'll basically just return the item like this, nothing. Okay, so that we'll see what is in the data, right? See that we're having some errors. So I think this is the error. Yeah. Okay, you can see that everything is set. So what we'll do is basically we'll get the data from the server, and we'll go through every entry of data. You can see this item, right? So item is every entry in the array, and it will basically give us all the entry. So I'll just save it. You can see that it will not be in a very good form over here because we are just giving out the JSON just like that. So it won't look good. It'll look kind of messed up, but I think it will not show an object over here. So let's see. As you can see that it is not showing us anything like this. I think there is an error or something with our application. That's why it's not showing. Okay. So what we have to do is basically it has the item has a JavaScript object. What is a JavaScript object? If you don't know, beginners, so I'll see const obj. So it's just an test. Okay. So object basically has key value here. So you can keep as name as harish. It's just an example. Okay, and age as age. So what this does is if you say object dot name, if you say like this, it will basically go to this name and it will get me this Harish data over here and it will give me that. If I say dot age, it will go to this age and it will get me this age. So that's what an object is. Okay, an array of object is like an array like this. Okay, an array. Okay, inside this array, we have this object. So what you can do is you can keep multiple objects like a data entry or something. See that you have multiple names, you have multiple ages, so you can store basically uh, different things, like test, and you can say that age is also test age, something like this. So basically this has, you can also keep an object inside this, so you can keep another object inside this. Okay, so this will not be here. So here in the name, you can create another object. You can keep something like first name, like this first name. You can keep it like test, and you can keep again a last name. So like that you can go inside. You can create a big tree of data also if you want using this. Okay. So what I'll do is just see if there's any chats in the stream. So I think nobody is watching the stream yet. So um, okay, so what I will do is, think you have understood what object is. So basically, the data we got is an object from that server. You may not be knowing, but I know because I've done it before. So in that we have something called as item dot name, item dot age, not age. I think item dot title. Okay, you have more here, but I think this is the remember. This is all I remember. So you have to go to JSON there, type it code, and you have to see what is going on. So it's still compiling for us. Can see that we have everything out here. And you can see that we are getting some data over here which we actually don't know. Okay, so this is the data which we are getting from the server and it's giving us, you can see some random text. Okay, this is just for testing purpose, this server. So what we'll do is we'll create a new p tag over here and we'll give it some good structuring so that we can understand what is going on. Okay, we'll give it the item dot name, item dot title. You also have item.id, so I'll give that item.id so that you can understand what's going on. After this div, we'll keep a break line tag like this. Okay, we'll keep two break line tags so that you get a line space down. Okay, two break line tags. You can see that this will compile and it will give us some data over here. You can see that we have some space over here and you can see that you are getting some data from the server in form of an array of objects. So this thing is basically an object. So how it's in the server, like coming in a type of like this, how I showed it before. Okay, so you can see that we have the ID as one and you have some basic text over here. It's same for everything and you can see that we have so many entries, so many objects inside which is coming from the server. So there are ways in which you can create your own API. So this getting data from the server is known as an API, okay, which is called application program interface. So basically your um, one application is communicating with another application. Okay, so you can see that we are getting all our data over here from another server. You can use like JavaScript or Python to create your own APIs, so you can create your own servers and and people can get some data from this. You can do something like that. See that we have a lot of entries, so we have I think 100 entries. Yes, we have 100 entries over. Okay, so I think you have understood in this stream, like how basically React JS works, and these are bare bone basics of React. Okay, in the next session, I will be doing next week or some days later. In that, we'll be learning, we'll create a new project, and that project will be actually, a notes app where you can manage your own notes. Okay, and I'll show you a local storage also in which you can store your data in the browser and you can persist the data for some time. Okay, I hope you like this stream, and I recommend you to click the subscribe button. It helps a lot, and I think you can share this thing with your friends. It can be informative for them, especially in this summer. It can be a new skill which they can learn. I hope you all like this project, this series. I can create more series like this. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Bye.